So next we will have the chanting of the Junilai, which you'll see on your screen there. For those of you here at the temple, it's also on page 63 of the purple Seiten. If it's easier for you to look at the purple Seiten, please do so. Namandavs, 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 namandavs. Keshe tenni shokugyo Amida Senyo Zokuson Zai Mi Me Anako Shin Ne 건지 기신 인조녀센 너 샤마다 견여서브 려모 그저냐 그 쇼랭에 보가 조라이 미다소 매냐 이거주녀 생니지가 쇼녀 때그시라 보가 조라이미다소 간전조다이가지지 스즈메소쇼거 노브그게 노마게마 보가 조라 다소 거리먹어쇼죠 쇼사리야 그도 그지다 보가 조라이미다소 지모묘모사시 머려쇼마조산다 이쇼주조간니지 보가 조라이미다소 본다요겐 진조겐 생어조조메다이사 오이사조조세노 오가 조라이미다소 지보쇼라이 쇼그시 지으시아나 생어성겐 적으여 공아저라이미다서 뭐가 더 세범으며지 거가조라이미다서 이섬도 세드마그며 야금은 연이 아그너흐 शनि शिशिगयिसा 고가조라이미다서 이섬무려맹겨 무저시 지식이 오저흐다이 시모나이 고가조라이미나서 야세세이 성은덕지 주대 해녀가이스 쇼약그생어 쇼조샤 에세슈 쇼히고 나마 나 나마 나무 나 나, 나, 마, 나, 무, 나, 마, 나, 무, 나, 마, 나, 무. 간이생은 어그 묘노생이사이 노드모나이시 오저 아나호 나만납스 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 나만납스. I'm actually going to forego reading the English translation because I noticed there's a lag sharing of the screen, so we'll forego that portion of it. And we'll get on to the Dharma talk, but just there. Okay. those of you who are here in attendance don't need to see me on the screen. So I would, I'm going to actually, I'd like to read a passage. It's actually in your purple section as well on page 214, if you want to just follow along. It's called The Way of Bodhisattva. It's on page 214, and I'm going to read this passage. The Way of Bodhisattva. May I be a medicine for the sick and weary, nursing them until their afflictions are gone forever. I will be a protector of the helpless, a guide for travelers and their means for crossing a stream, a lamp for those who need a lamp, a bed for those who need a bed, a slave for those who need a slave. May all find happiness through my actions and let no one suffer because of me. Whether they love or hate me, may those feelings be the source of their fulfillment. Those who mock, accuse, or wrong me, may they all attain enlightenment. May all beings in the paths of existence suffering from disasters be released from their afflictions. May all beings in the world who receive benefits share in the merit. May the state continue in peaceful prosperity with all its warlike activities stopped. May the wind blow in time, the rain fall seasonably, and the people live happily. May the entire congregation sharing in this service cherish the highest aspirations to attain enlightenment, and this without too much difficulty. May this temple keep on its peaceful life, free from disturbances, and the congregation grow not only in faith, but in wisdom and bliss. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Once again, good morning, everyone. And I do hope those that are joining us by Zoom are able to share in this. Again, I apologize for the disturbances that we've been having. Today, what I wanted to do was share a little bit about the importance of a name. And why I'm mentioning this is actually this afternoon I have to go to the Vancouver Buddhist Temple to speak for their Obon service. And so I'm sharing with you a little bit of what I'm going to talk to them about. Next week, we're actually going to have our Obon service, and Aoki Sensei from the Vancouver Buddhist Temple will be our guest. So I hope it's not going to be too repetitive what he says from what I say. But as all of you know, this is the time of year. Obon is when we gather to remember ancestors and those who have gone before us. And also, it's a time in which we recall the story of Moggallana, one of the 10 great disciples of the Buddha. And there's a sutra called the Ulambana Sutra. In Japanese, we call that Urabon Kyo. And that's why Obon is a shortened version of Urabon, Obon. And so in this story, I'm not going to go through the whole story because Aoki Sensei will probably do that next week. But just to let you know that one of the main themes or one of the main teachings of this Urabon Kyo is about karma, that our karma is our action with volition. So through our actions, we can change the future, or we affect the future, okay? And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was when we talk about actions determining the future or affecting the future, one of the things that happens that's most important to us is when we have our children born. We have to choose a name for them. If you can go back to recalling when your child was born, for myself, especially when our eldest son was born, he was born in Japan, and of course I guess for everybody, the firstborn child is fussed out over the most. And it took us over a week to choose a name for our son. And every time we would think up of a name, there would be some reason why, no, that's not the perfect name. So you would try to figure out all these different names. And of course, it's harder when you're coming from a multi-cultural background, because we have to choose a Japanese name and an English name, et cetera, et cetera. And the English name was a lot easier to choose, because usually the English names, we will get it from people that inspire us, or give us the, I guess, yeah, people who inspire us, or great people that we think of. But with the Japanese name, and very similar to Chinese too, they're characters. And each character has a specific meaning behind it, right? So our eldest son, his Japanese name is Masaaki. But in Japan, what's interesting is that, here in North America, when an infant is born, and when you go to a hospital as well, they put on those wristbands to identify the individuals, right? So they do that with newborn babies over here too. They'll put on this little, or maybe around their ankle or something, but something way to identify them. But in Japan, what they did, so this was back in 1992, that's 30 years ago now, I guess. What they did back then is that they took a felt marker, like a permanent marker, and they actually write the name on the leg of the child so that they know who it is, right? But what's funny is that, so when our eldest was born, I took, back then we had the video cameras. So, I took some footage of video camera, and I think it was VHS back then, very big and clunky thing. But I sent it back home to my parents in Canada. And they were really worried, because back then the quality of video wasn't that great. So they thought our son had this big bruise down his leg, because, of course, they're writing it with a marker, and it doesn't come out as cleanly as, writing it on paper. So my parents were worried, and they didn't know how to broach the subject, that their grandson has this big black mark down his leg. And as it turned out, it was just his name. But anyways, coming back to the name, when we name our children, usually we have wishes behind it, or aspirations behind it. We want them to be this kind of person, especially with the Japanese or Chinese characters. You usually try to find, if it's a girl, sometimes they'll use the word beautiful, mi, yeah, utsukushi, as part of their name, right? And then there was a time in the past where a lot of girls' names finished with ko, like Ito ko, right? And that was a very popular thing to do, right? Nori ko, Ito ko, Hiro ko, right? They all ended with ko, right? So my Japanese name happens to be Masami. And our family spent several years in Japan when I was a child. I went to kindergarten, grade 1 in Japan. And there are different ways of writing Japanese. There's the Chinese characters, kanji. There's a phonetic alphabet, which we call hiragana. And there's another phonetic alphabet called katakana. Katakana is usually used for foreign words, right? Like personal computer, PC. In Japanese, they say personal computer, or pasokon, they make it short. But that will be written in this katakana form, okay, because it's a foreign word, okay? But when you go to kindergarten, you still don't know the Chinese characters. So you write everything in the phonetic alphabet. So every kindergarten student, when the first day of kindergarten, they get this little name tag, basically, with their name written in it in hiragana. So my name was Masami. Right? And as I mentioned, Mi is often written as beautiful, utsukushi, and it's often used for girls' names. Mayumi, Mami, these are girls' names, right? So I remember very distinctly the first day of school, coming back home and being upset at my mother because I was teased for having a girl's name. All the boys would tease me saying, your name is a girl's name because it ended with me, Masami, right? And so my mother tried to explain at that time, but as a young child, I wasn't appreciative of it. But later on, when I went to study in Japan to become a minister, I guess it was then, I really began to appreciate my Japanese name. And the reason why was that the characters from my Japanese name, so this is the top, this is this one here, Masa, okay? And this came actually from my paternal grandfather. Oops, I forgot to bring his name. His name was Masanari, or Shinjo is the Buddhist name. But that was the first character from my father's father, okay? Shin. And then me, this is my maternal grandfather's name, is Shoken. Shoken. Or Terumi. You could read this as Terumi. And so my name comes from these two, the top character of my paternal grandfather and the second character of my maternal grandfather. And that's how you get, this is read as Masami. Or Buddhist reading, this is Shinken. So this is my Buddhist name. And so now this Masami took on a whole different meaning for me. I was very proud of my name because it's parts of both my grandparents. And the reason why I mention this is that here is another name that is very important to us. And I don't know if you can see this that well on your screen, but this is Shinran. Okay, Shinran. And Shinran is the founder of our school of Jodo Shinshu. And where this name actually comes from, so it was not uncommon for people during the time of Shinran, particularly Buddhist monks, to change their name a number of times throughout their life. So as they, one reason is that as they get a new ranking, for instance, they will change their name. And it's still to this day not uncommon for people to change their names as they go along in the Buddhist tradition. And so Shinran's name actually comes from two individuals. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see this that well, but this is Tenjin. And this is that second part of Tenjin is the first part of Shinran, okay? Tenjin Bosatsu is what we call Vasubandhu Bodhisattva. And he's the second of the seven patriarchs of Jodo Shinshu, this seven Pure Land masters, okay? So he's a very important individual. And so Shinran took the second character from Vasubandhu or Tenjin, and he took the second character from what we call Donnan. Donnan is the third of the seven patriarchs, Tanwan in Chinese. Okay? So he took the second character from Tenjin Bosatsu or Vasubandhu, and he also took the second character from Donnan, Tanwan. And this is how he gets the name. Putting those two together, you get the name Shinran. Okay. Now, why this is important is in our actually, for those who are here, if you turn to page, what page was that, please? Well, if you turn to page 58 of your purple Seiken, at the very top of this page 58, okay, it says Bodhisattva Vasubandhu, composing a discourse, professed that he himself took refuge in the Tathagata of unimpeded light. In accordance with the sutras, he revealed the truth and elucidated the great vow for the crosswise transcendence. So he's saying here, so Vasubandhu, this second of the seven patriarchs, was a very, very well-known scholar in India. Okay, and he was well known for a number of different schools of Buddhism. One of the things that he was well known was for the it slips my mind now. But he was very well known throughout. But even though he was such a accomplished scholar, it says here Vasubandhu took refuge in Tathagata of unimpeded light, and he, according with the sutras, revealed the truth of that the great vow is the path. So this is Amida's vow. Okay, so Shinran Shonin really, really honored Vasubandhu or Tenjin Bosatsu. Okay, and then if you go down now, the bottom of that page, okay, it says here, commenting on the Bodhisattva Vasubandhu's discourse, he revealed that the cause and effect of birth in the land of recompense are due to the vows. Merit transference for going forward and returning originate in the other power. The cause which rightly assures birth is solely Shinjin. When Shinjin is raised in a deluded and defiled ordinary man, he is made aware of birth and death is identical with nirvana. After he unfailingly reaches the land of miserable light, he will save universally all living beings. Thus Donnan said. So this part here, Shinran is praising Donnan's teachings. Okay, so the Ran from Shinran comes from this Donnan. And here he is saying, again, Vasubandhu or Donnan is making a commentary on Vasubandhu or Tenjin Bosatsu's working. And again, he's reiterating that for our cause, for both going to the Pure Land and returning as a compassionate working of the Buddha, all comes from what we call the other power. And what's important, what's solely important for this birth is what we call Shinjin, or the entrusting heart. And so Shinran found this as a core of his teachings. He said that this Shinjin, entrusting heart, entrusting mind in the workings of Amida Buddha, is the most important thing out of all things. And so Shinran, because of his reverence for these two great masters, he chose his name, Shinran. So now you know when we talk about Shinran Shonin of Jodo Shinshu, that his name is a name that he chose from these two great masters, one from India, Tenjin Bosatsu in Japanese, or Vasubandhu Bodhisattva in Sanskrit or Pali, and then from Donnan or Tanwan from China. And so again, it is with that desire, the reason why this name was Shinran chose for himself was a desire solely to understand that Shinjin, or this entrusting heart to the working of the Buddha, is the most important for us. And so as we gather to listen to the Dharma, we are trying to receive this entrusting heart or mind of the Buddha. And next week, we will have our Obon service. And I do hope we're supposed to have our technicians coming this week to work on our feed here. And I hope that it will be up and running. It better be up and running by next weekend. But thank you all for joining us. And I hope I didn't break up too badly during the course of the service. And we'll close this morning's service with the recitation of the name of the Buddha, or the Onenbutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo. Thank you very much for joining us, those here in person as well as online. Thank you. Morning, John, and thanks for attending. Were you able to?
Thank you, Grant.
Thank
was
you.
Everything went out. You were able to hear everything. Okay.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Was it okay? May?
Yes, yes, it
Oh,
was
it was
great.
okay. Good. Okay.
Yeah. Everything
Thank
came
you.
through.
Okay.